Greetings and welcome to
YAS Podcast, formerly known as
YAS Stripper Podcast.
This is our podcast, all of ours.
A podcast for all sex workers.
In this podcast, we will discuss the ins and outs, ups and downs of our lives and experiences as sex workers. I am your host, Daisy Ducati.
I am your Hopra, Gigi Holiday.
I'm your stripper queen from the north, Onyx.
I'm AM Davies, and this is YAS Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to YAS Podcast. I'm here with NatsHoney today. She is joining me on this recording. Hi, Nats.
Hello, AM. Hello, everyone out there.
Thanks for joining me today. This is a different kind of episode. There's a couple of things happening. Number one, this is our last episode for 2026. Last one.
Yeah, you guys have been very busy over there.
I think we did 29. This will be 29. Something like that. Some ridiculous high 20 number for the whole year.
That's wonderful that many messages were able to get out over the community.
Oh my God, I love how positive you are about and you're right, it's great. And I'm very grateful that, there's more people on the projects this year. We had Lisa Michelle doing guest hosting in the beginning of the year. We had you do some hosting. We've had, of course, Daisy doing some hosting. We had Onyx doing a host, and we had a new guest host, Princess Marks, which is that's amazing, right?
That is.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I keep saying I want this to be a community podcast, and I think it's important for other voices besides just mine all the time, because there's so many people out there that have interesting ideas and questions, so it's been so fun. It's been a really exciting / horrifying year.
That's relatable. That is relatable.
100%. And the other thing that makes this episode a bit different is, I don't know if you want to call this investigative or researchy, but it's definitely like a collaboration between me and you, one of our researchers on our team, and two other interviewers who clips of their interviewees, I should say,
Yes.
Clips of their interviews will be added as we go through this information. Today, we are talking about RCI Hospitality Holdings.
So well-known company, right?
Very well known. So if you don't know, right, RCI Hospitality Holdings owns all of the Rick's Cabarets, plus they own a ton of other clubs all over the country. Like, I couldn't even name them all. I think they own like over 50.
That sounds accurate.
Yeah. They own one that I worked at in New York, in the city. It starts with a V. Vivid?
In New York?
Yeah, in Manhattan. Mm-hmm.
Did they also have one in San Francisco named Vivid?
I don't know. We can look it up. Do they own Vivid in, where'd you say? In San Francisco?
San Francisco, yeah.
Spelling. No, they do not own Vivid Cabaret in San Francisco, but they do own the one in New York City. Why are we talking about Hospitality Holdings today? RCI Hospitality Holdings. Nats, do you want to fill us in?
From what I understand, they have some unhappy employees, and I believe a misclassification lawsuit was presented. Allegedly, I don't know. I haven't looked at it all, and it's affecting their shareholders at this point. Allegedly,
yes, allegedly. Also, allegedly, they had bribed a tax auditor to avoid paying over $8 million in taxes. That is also alleged, and there is an ongoing case. Regarding that, I believe that they've been indicted. They have not been charged or convicted, or it has not been decided that they did do this thing. But it is being spoken about in the mainstream media news that they bribed a tax auditor. Sorry, I'm trying so hard not to smile while I'm saying this because It's just very interesting, that's all. They bribed a tax auditor with free lap dances to audit them in a way that reduced how much taxes they would have to pay. And I mean, we're talking upwards of like thousands and thousands of dollars per month per visit. I think up to like $5,000 like per visit. They were given in free lap dances and food, probably drinks, stuff like that. Probably everything was free, right?
That instantly, as much as that may be, the action itself sounds very much against the law. I mean, I don't know. I'm no one's lawyer. It's how the performers, the dancers, are treated like that I find the most troubling.
Okay, so let's talk about that because I think that we should clear that up exactly how that happened. So what's your perception when I say all of this? Like, what do you perceive that we mean when we say that they were given free lap dances?
That people that would be considered like VIPs aren't necessarily paying for the entertainment of the dancer. Instead, they're being compensated. So maybe maybe the establishment is sliding a little money to the dancers their way like they normally would, but I think that still undercuts what the dancer could possibly make. Like a client is a client.
Totally. So what I understand, my understanding from my research is that this tax auditor, him and potentially anyone else like him, I believe it was one tax auditor. It could be, we can look that up actually. How many, let's make sure, tax auditors were in on the free lap dance scheme? Only one. Okay. So there's only one former New York State tax auditor who has been publicly implicated. Their name is Alton Plunkett. And he retired in April of 2024. And now all of this stuff happened between 2010 and 2024. So here's what I believe happened based on my research, that he was given like funny money. You know what I'm saying? Like chips. Like I used to know them as chips from Spearmint Rhino.
Mm-hmm.
And they call it different things in different clubs, but it's basically, and just for anybody who doesn't understand what we're talking about, to give you context, it's where the people go and like they put money on their credit card. So they like basically they put their credit card down and let's say they want $1,000 in funny money to then they can spend on the dancers. They give it to the dancers and then the dancers pay that money. They give those chips and they cash them out at the end of the night. I believe the dancers pay a percentage on those. I know the customer pays a percentage on those. So I don't think the dancers were ever understood what they were doing. And a big reason why, I mean, let's think about it. They did this from 2010 to 2024.
And I have a question about that, by the way, too.
Right. That's about 14 years. So if you like let any dancers in on what they were doing or why they were accepting dances for less money, like that would have gotten out. We would have known about this way sooner. And I think that they just gave this guy funny money and just like let him loose. That's what I think. What's your question?
When did they go public on as a stock list? What year was that?
When did, oh, that's such a good question, go public? It says RCI Hospitality Holdings went public on July 31st, 1998, traded on the NASDAQ stock market.
I thought they did something a few years ago. Like,
yeah, they're only public on NASDAQ. Hold on, what caused? Okay, yeah, so they've been publicly traded for a long time now, before our time. Maybe it's just it wasn't a big deal until a while later. So here we are. We've talked to two different workers who work at Denver clubs in Colorado. And I would love to know, like, hear from them. So we're going to pull a clip. How do they feel about the current climate? Like, what's going on in their clubs? How are they feeling? We've had to change the sound of of one person's voice. We're not using their name. We're not using their likeness in any way. And we've literally changed their voice because that's how scared people are to talk about this.
We have Devin Dewey here with us in the podcast studio today. Do you want to, Devin, give a brief introduction of who you are so our audience can sort of get some context around, what we're talking about today?
Sure. Yeah. So I am a current dancer in Colorado. I am also the founder of Dancer for Rights. So I'm actively involved in organizing. I've worked in some of the RCI clubs as well. So unfortunately, everything that we've uncovered with RCI has felt not real, but it is all real and equally shocking. I mean, and it was using the labor of dancers.
Also,
These
that
allegations are found true. You have used the labor of because that was my question. It was like, okay, did dancers then have to pay $5 per dance they did for this corrupt auditor? So yeah, I mean, it was like in the indictment, it says hotel stays, private jet flights, cash, and what was included was in the indictment looks like they put it all in writing. And it was all of the executives. It was, it wasn't just like one or two people convening. It was, everybody at the top who was like, hey, can we get this? And, a couple people are okaying it to give this auditor cash to what the auditor had said in the indictment is that he wanted to mostly do dances. He liked to just do dances with a bunch of girls. I think this is really our chance and our time to demand transparency, right? If we can't trust you I mean, at the end of the day, if this is true, this is really unsafe for us, not just with the general public, but historically, we know that things like this are weaponized against our industry legislatively. So to do something like this, if it's true, I mean, how could you do that to the industry as a whole?
what happens when these big clubs lose all this money? How do they stay open? And then how do we have workplaces?
Right. And the thing is not everybody is as worker friendly or as progressive towards sex workers as New York or Colorado.
Yeah.
And if other states start to be like, well, we have an RCI club here. What's going on here? We've already seen how, Texas has treated some of the clubs out there where they do have RCI clubs, rating them in ways that affect sex workers, auditing them. Not everywhere is as worker friendly.
Right.
For these allegations to even come out, right, where it that alone will put, us in a purgatory sort of area where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
now we're getting really nervous about what's to come for the industry. I mean, it is just so stupid, quite frankly.
Yeah, it really is stupid. So I heard from one person who shall remain anonymous that at their RCI club, it's business as usual. No one's even talking about it. What's it like in your club?
I've been a pretty public face in this, and so people do ask me about it a lot. For me, it's very tense, and I'm pretty well prepared after years of being pretty
Yeah.
outspoken about this that it's gonna be tense. Um, for us, I mean, it's just been such a firestorm in Denver with our own cases that people, are talking about it. But I think it's one of those things where we know and we're doing our best to compartmentalize too. I mean, just with everything going on in this country and, how this could affect the occupation, I think we just have this unspoken way of trying to compartmentalize while we're at work. So it feels like, a lot of times the club can be for dancers what it is for customers, right? Like we get to walk in there and be our stage name and sort of forget for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's what's really frustrating about this too, is like, if this is true, how could you put this burden on us where it's like we're dealing with enough in the outside world?
Sure.
We're not corporate millionaires and like, so it puts a big pressure on. But I think in a way we're trying to compartmentalize it and be our stage names and also try to like hold on to the fantasy as much as we can for as long as we can.
Yeah. So no one like, are your managers like giving you a hard time? Is that okay to ask? Or
It's
tough.
tough,
Okay, gotcha.
but I
Okay.
think at the end of the day, like, I don't know, there's always just this this like specific community with strippers. Like, I don't even have to tell you that, like, it's okay because I know that even if we don't all say it, even if not everybody is out front, like there's this unspoken, it's just us right now.
We're here with another worker from an RCI club that we're going to talk to, and they are choosing to remain anonymous for obvious reasons.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I was just a little nervous, but more excited to just bring light to the topic overall. But because I think a lot of the employees probably have a similar experience to mine, I don't think that mine is unique. So hopefully I can speak for some other employees as well. It's truly it's shocking, but it's also not shocking at the same time. Like you just have to take a deep breath and kind of laugh at the corruption. Surprising, or maybe unsurprisingly, my house fees have actually gone up recently. So they've basically gone up by $20. At first it was 10 and then it was 20. I think trying to find a solution is really difficult, and while we might not have one at the moment, at least we can bring awareness to the subject through podcasts like this. Just because I can't even tell you how many of my coworkers don't even know that have no idea that there's any sort of problems going on. That think it's totally normal to be tipping out the manager tons of money, like, and they just don't realize that the system is corrupt. And I wish there was more awareness to this subject. In terms of having a slowdown effect for RCI, from my personal experience, I do not believe that that's going to happen. They just opened a new strip club, I believe, about 4 or 5 months ago in Central City, Colorado, which is in the mountains. So that's the RCI's newest location. Also this year, opened in Colorado, was a Bombshells location, which is similar to like a Hooters. It's kind of like food service. That was also opened this year, also by RCI. So they have 2 new locations in Colorado just this year. So I do not believe that it's going to be affecting them, but also I'm not too sure about the legal side of things, just being a dancer. If I'm not mistaken, this new club that just opened in the mountains, because there's so much pushback and so much local laws, I believe that they have to pay a fine every single day that they're open. And so they have so much money. The 14 million is nothing.
I mean, that's it right there. So that's been kind of my question. Like, what's happening with these lawsuits keep coming up? How does that affect the business itself? And like, do you have to shutter? Do you have to find ways to increase your revenue? And like, how are you going to do that? Because you and I both know, we've seen this for over 20 years now, that
These lawsuits are taking the clubs out, like left and right.
they're
left and
taking the
right.
clubs
And
out.
they refuse to change the business model. So it's like if the model doesn't adapt to the current times, hopefully someone comes along and wants to change it enough, is all I have to say, because
Right.
everybody's closing.
Right. And my thing is, it's like, we've watched, remember Nats when we were working, like when we were dancing, did you pay a house fee in 2002, 2003? Were you paying a house fee? I wasn't.
I did pay a fee to come in, yes. At my nude spot, at my first home spot, I paid a fee to come in. The only time I wasn't paying fees up front was if I was doing like an amateur contest, when I was in the amateur circuit and doing all those like weekly contests.
In 2002, you were paying house fees.
Frisky Kitty charged a house fee. I don't recall them charging a house fee for a day shift because I think they were trying to get dancers in. But then for night shift, they definitely had a house fee. And over the years, it did increase, but it was always something that I felt was very manageable. And this is coming from somebody who I was never a lapper. I don't get a lot of dances. That's my forte has always been stage, even back then. So having a reasonable house fee has always been like something that I required.
Okay. I don't remember paying a house fee. So if we were paying house fees, they must have been low and not like if I was paying $100 house fee like people are now, I would remember that. I think the only time I paid $100 house fee was
Vegas.
I'm about to say Vegas, but I'm about to be like, I don't even think it was that much.
Yeah. Even when we were dancing, a Vegas house fee was like $150, something like that. It was on the higher end. It was like the highest.
2005?
It was like the highest house fee pretty much across everywhere, but it was still reasonable. It was still reasonable.
Stand by. What was the average house fee for Las Vegas in 2003 in strip clubs? Oh, okay. They already know. Thank you. Okay, fine. It was about $100. Right. But they don't take anything else from you, right? They're not locked. Nope, that's not true. If you're on the floor, that's where they don't take money from you, which is why I prefer to do most of my work on the floor.
Yeah.
But
when you're like dancing on the customer, like right on the public floor, like not necessarily in a room in the back.
Yeah. And they do that at Sapphires in Manhattan too. But but they take from the rooms, any room that you're in, they're marking you and taking your money. In Vegas, though, I guess, I don't know. My memory is hazy. It was a long time ago. And it was Vegas.
Yeah, that part.
But seriously, though, I guess the point, though, that also I'm trying to make is that it's increased.
Yes.
Increased.
Yes.
And they have all of these new types of fees now. And there's continuous lawsuits, and they're continuing to pay out, and they're continuing to charge us more and more and more as time goes, because the rate of inflation and the economy and
I was just about to say, and our cost of living is increasing as well. So it's
right. But what hasn't increased, let's talk about this, is the cost of lap dances.
I hear that they've only decreased.
Who did that?
I hear that there's a lot of clubs in Los Angeles who have decreased their prices in order to, allegedly, because I'm not currently in a club, but allegedly,
right.
A lot of the clubs out here in LA have significantly reduced their lap dance pricing.
Wow. Yeah. Well, this is a huge problem. And it's continuing to happen, and nothing is stopping, and nothing is changing. I mean, I guess something we can talk about too is, this dancers being employees versus independent contractors. What are your thoughts? Do you want to start on that topic?
It's the idea of dancers not being referred to as employees at this point, it just sounds ridiculous to me, because I've traveled across the country, and in other states there was a payroll system put in place. So when I entered the industry in Los Angeles, most of the clubs were paying payroll. I come from a time in where that was protocol, and for it to be now flipped 100, like just complete 180, and now dancers are paying for their own shifts, like you're starting in the negative like that. I don't.
So you recall a time where you got paid to come to work?
Definitely.
But you also recall a time where you paid house fees very early on in your career.
Definitely.
So you're talking about two different locations? Okay.
both in Los Angeles.
Interesting. I worked at a bunch of places in LA and I never got paid to show up.
When we came in, a lot of people were choosing not to do it because at that time it was just like, it was an easy sell on like, oh, you could have more control if you get paid, then we got to tell you when to be here. And most of us were entering like, no, I want to be able to come when I want to come. I want more freedom in it. We
Right.
didn't want necessarily the paper trail, because there was also a discrimination factor that was that we would constantly run up against. I remember that because for some clubs, I opted not to receive payroll. But there was one club I did do. I didn't stay there for very long. I was only there for, I think, about 3 months, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, everywhere else, I didn't want to. I didn't want the paper trail.
I also would have chosen to be an independent contractor, but even then, I recall very vividly this argument that I had with a manager, one of the managers I worked with, and it was Halloween night, and it was like just horrible night to work. I've never worked Halloween since that night, and I was like, I'm leaving. This is stupid, and I was a high earner, and he did not want me to leave. And he would follow me out to the parking lot and was like kind of threatening my shifts and my job if I left. And I remember at the time, I don't know where I got this information from, but I was like, I know my rights and I know that you can't force me to be here, that I'm allowed to come and go as I please, and I know that. And he didn't have anything to say and he let me go. And I look back on that and I'm like, who told you that? You didn't know that. Like, it's so
Even if you pulled it out of thin air, though, like, even if it was just like, made sense, because it's totally right. Like, especially if you're going to be, if they're signing us up to be treated as ICs at that time, that's the whole idea. We're coming and going as we want to. Your business isn't depending on us to make the money. You're doing that other ways. Like, whether or not we're there, your business would survive. If your business cannot survive without us,
yeah.
employee.
So that's the thing. Like, I'm fine. I'm fine being an independent contractor, but independent contractors don't pay to work.
Yeah.
They get paid to work.
Yeah.
And I'm fine being an independent contractor, but you're not supposed to tell me what my schedule is.
Yeah.
What I can and can't wear.
Yeah.
Based on the law, I get it, right? Because there's that it's like a thong law, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get the law. Like, we can't wear things based on the law. I get that. But you're just like, you have to wear a gown. Says who? Says who I have to wear a gown? You? Because now you're telling me to wear a uniform. And not only do I have to wear said uniform, I have to spend $100.
Yes.
Multiple said uniforms.
Yes. The expenses that we have to incur in order to actually do the job. And I understand that it's a tax write-off, but no one's taking the expenses that we need to dish out in order to actually do it. Like, we should not be getting robbed at every fucking freaking turn.
Right.
I feel like cussing today.
Hey everyone, quick update. Our Cancel the Cosplay panel and our digital censorship panel are now available to watch at yasstore.shop. You can stream them anytime, totally on your own schedule. We'll be adding more panels, workshops, and digital downloads. Some will be free, some will be paid, so keep checking back. If you want to have deeper conversations, resources, and community support, head to yasstore.shop and start exploring.
So let's hear from our interviewees how they feel about independent contractor versus employee.
I think this is a really good time for labor rights community in general to really pay attention to sex workers. Like, our problems are yours.
Yeah.
It may seem like we're some other, but at the end of the day, if they can do it to us, or if they can deny us our rights, they can do the same thing to you. Stripping specifically, not illegal. So if we're getting stolen from, if we're getting denied our rights, if there are issues legislatively that affect us negatively, that can come back to the labor rights.
They have signs in the back that say, if you believe that you should be classified as an employee and you're not, and you're classified as an independent contractor, but truly you're doing employee duties, contact this number. Which is what the lawsuit was all about, was about misclassification. I did see some signs in the dressing room at one of the locations that I work at regarding this. It did say, I believe it was something government, I think it was something government, not like RCI. I don't want to like 100% push that. I just remember that there was a number. If you think you've been incorrectly classified, call this number. They enforce how long we work. Like they say you have to work a minimum of X amount of hours. They enforce the house fee. They enforce the dress codes. They enforce the dance prices. They enforce the room prices. There's not little that they don't enforce. And yet we're still classified as independent contractors. And especially too, one thing that kind of bugs me is the tipping culture. For me personally, I not only do I not mind tipping like the DJ, I like tipping the DJ. I really do think that they're, if they're like really who like calling you up on stage and like doing the most, playing your music, like yes, I will tip the DJ. But what really irks me is when management expects a tip for helping you out. And I wish you could see me. I'm saying helping you out in air quotes because it's just, they're not really helping you out. It'll be like a notification from pole position being like, we have 5 girls right now. We need more dancers. If you come in, we'll help you out with our house fee, with your house fee. So it's like, oh, so you'll help us out with something that is already supposed to be free, and then you're going to ask for a tip for it. Specifically, a lot of girls that have just turned 18, they just really new to the industry and unfortunately do not know.
So that's a really good point about the young dancers.
That's what worries me the most, honestly. Like that, as we enter the industry, we're keeping the machine going. So unless we get through and are like, hey, I don't know what that means. I don't know if people need to understand what's happening in this industry before they're of legal age, so that if somebody does decide to do this when they become legal, but waiting until the last minute to get this information out in regards to this industry and the manipulation and the abuse of power, I think it's a little too late.
Yeah, I think we need the strippers at work now need to be kind of taking these other workers under their wings and being like, this is what's going on and this is the truth, and or we should have some sort of materials for people.
Yeah.
Because also right now with the economy the way it is, we're going to see more strippers, more sex workers in general
Definitely.
stepping in, more civilians stepping into sex work because people are getting desperate, and that's what happens in low economic times.
Yes.
And I get it. Like if I were single and living in today, I mean, if I didn't meet my partner, I'd still be doing God knows what. You know what I mean? I just got lucky. But I can't imagine like what it's like out there in this moment. And then you're just being preyed upon by these people. And what blows my mind, allegedly preyed upon. What blows my mind is that there's so much to go around.
Yeah, that part.
Yeah. And you said something. There's something in this document here. Let me look for it. We're talking about the investors. We're talking about the investors of RCI.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lawsuit, or there's something going on between the investors of RCI and RCI. Let's get that straight. And then you fill us in while I'm looking this up if you have info.
Not additional.
Okay.
Yeah, I just know that the shareholders realized that allegedly realized that the lawsuits are expensive.
Yeah.
realize that the lawsuits are cut into the profits. So
Mhm.
therefore, the numbers that are being provided are extremely inaccurate, allegedly. And a publicly traded strip club can't necessarily hide labor abuse. Like, bad press is bad press. So, just
I mean,
again, I say
yeah.
we need education in terms of the industry. So, like, now we're talking about investors need the proper education in terms of, like, how is the entity making the money? Is it off the labor specifically of the women or men, whoever it may be inside that building?
Yeah.
Is it off of that actual is it off of those actual individuals? And if so, you should have the proper financial projections and budget to actually be able to compensate them, have your smaller profit, like present the true numbers.
Right. So there is a lawsuit that alleges that between December 2021 and September 2025, the owners and company failed to disclose that they were engaged in tax fraud and bribery, alleged tax fraud and bribery. The class action lawsuits, multiple, claim that positive statements the company made about its operations were materially misleading, which led to investors losing money when the information became public. When the news broke, RCI's stock price dropped significantly. And then there are law firms that are actively recruiting shareholders who lost money to join the lawsuits. Now, as of November 14th, which is today, Hospitality Holdings is down by almost 58% since January 2nd of this year. And I'm looking at this little graphic. It's very cute. Colorful. And it just goes down, 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 down.
Oh, God, no. Oh, no.
It's so sad. And the thing is, it's like, I'm not laughing because I'm happy. I'm laughing because it's fucking bananas. Like, I don't want RCI Holdings to go under. I don't want them to lose money.
At
I
all.
want them to stay in business and
Yes.
keep workers working, right? I don't want anything bad to happen to RCI Holdings because they own so many clubs and have
Yes.
so many workers that rely on this income that it would be devastating even to close one club.
Yes. It's interesting to me because allegedly I wasn't a part of it, but in the early 2000s, I believe there were a group of dancers that sued RCI over misclassification. So, and that kind of set the precedent nationally for us. And this is before Dynamax, this is before AB5, this is before Deja Vu was facing a bunch of misclassification lawsuits, before Spimmer Rhino, and it's been happening, I know, my entire time for sure. They set the precedent then. I wonder if they would like to set a new precedent. You know what I mean? Like,
That would be
it's
great.
obvious that they care. It's obvious that they care about the money and they want to see the industry do great things and they want to be on the forefront of that. That's obvious because you're taking a lot of risk, you're putting yourself out there, and you have a very wide portfolio. And it's also obvious that the current model isn't working. So we actually, like the dancers, the clients, your investors, everyone needs you to actually step up to the plate and find that new thing that's working. And I think that starts with them talking to their workforce and involving their workforce on a board level. You know what I mean? I think that the profits need to be shared a little bit more. Like, we need to rethink this entire fucking model. It's not working for anyone.
Right. And it's not working because whorephobia, right? Because the workers, the strippers, the sex workers are below and beneath, right? The owners. Like, we've all heard the things that they say about us, right? We're replaceable. We're paper towels. Like, you just get a new role. Like, 18-year-olds are graduating high school every year. Like, you know what I mean? Like, those are the things that we've heard. And so they treat us as disposable, but then they're reaping what they sow, right? So because they treat the workers the way they do and don't acknowledge us or our input or our value, I mean, obviously we're making a shit ton of money for these companies, and it's like they don't value that. They just see us as replaceable, and so they're not learning, and they're not creating like bonded, like teamwork type situations, but they do it through manipulation of conversation, right? We're a family, we're a family, we're a family.
And they do have their, and they may have their like chosen small few performers that are very close to them. But what they should try to aim for is to have their entire staff of dancers close to them, not select few.
And not even necessarily close, right? Because I'm thinking about like what some workers might want to be like, I don't really want to be close. I just want to get in, get out. But to have like maybe more of a culture, maybe that's what I'm thinking about.
Okay.
Like a culture of like feedback and respectability. It's like they don't respect our feedback, our thoughts, our feelings. Like I can't even, like when I had my period, I'd be like, bro, I gotta go. And they're like,
Yeah.
you need to stay for like 2 more hours, and like threatened my shifts, threatened my livelihood if I didn't power through feeling like absolute garbage. And then like I get period blood on this rich guy's white jeans. Like that totally happened before. Whoops.
That's funny.
Not my fault.
Yeah.
My fucking fault.
Yeah.
I mean, I would, so there were times where I put my foot down and times that I didn't. And I think it depended on what was going on for me in life, who the boss was, how tough they were, how much I could push back or not, you know? But like, I look at times today and like, because they're not making, I don't think they're making as much money as we did. Maybe they're making as much, but in comparatively to inflation, right? We technically were making more, because the cost of living was lower back in 2002. And so I feel like there's just more at stake now than there was back then. There were more clubs, there was more money, there was less dancers, there was less of us.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So there was more like, okay, fuck you, fire me. I'm just going to fucking go over here. It's not really like that right now.
Because there's so many performers at one place. Like every place is kind of overloaded.
Right. So, definitely we're going to play like some clips from the dancers, from the interviews that we did.
So earlier this year, we had the Denver labor investigation into wage theft with RCI, which I had never seen it happen like this before, at least not in our industry. It wasn't a class action lawsuit. It was actually the auditor's office and a division of the auditor's office, the municipal Denver labor. They were doing an investigation for wage theft themselves. There was an anonymous report that Matt, the executive director of Denver Labor, he was at some like community event, and somebody was like, hey, my manager's, wanting tips from me, is taking a portion of my tips. Is that legal? And he was like, whoa. And I think I tend to forget myself how closed off our community is from so many people, where they don't even know that like we pay a house fee. Like if you say a house fee to somebody who's like outside of the strip club industry, like they don't even know what that is. So it was just new to them. And then they independently opened an investigation into it. They did a press release. I saw the press release and I was like, whoa, what is this? I was immediately skeptical, just because I think historically nobody ever listens to us in the government. I've had a great experience with Denver Labor, and it, in the same regard, has opened up a lot of coalition building with just labor rights community in general in Colorado, as well as other, state legislators, city legislators are really, really listening and really interested in what's going on. And in a way that they're genuinely concerned. I can't remember a time in my organizing that I had seen so much allyship from people outside of the community. It's a pretty stark contrast to now what's happening in New York with their auditor, right? It's like, unfortunately, I feel like there can be two extremes. It can be either, a genuine allyship and like they really care because we're workers at the end of the day, or there's now this. There are almost like every other day, there's like a new class action being filed. I mean, in many, many, many states. I think I've counted like 15
Yikes.
in law firms that have filed for something.
Yeah.
And there's already, the president had already been in trouble by shareholders for stealing cash from shareholders and using it to pay his kids' tuition, to pay for private jet flights. Like, this isn't some new thing. He had already been in trouble before with things like that. I think this was probably 7, 8 years ago. There will come a point, I fear, where we're going to need to really, even if you don't want to be directly organizing or be super out front, that's okay. But we're going to have to strategize here. So I'm really hoping to do some outreach with dancers in other states, especially ones that might not be as worker friendly or progressive, because I don't want to fearmonger here, but I do get concerned about states, like Texas, states in the South that are not as worker friendly, where they have quite a few clubs, and see how they're doing, what's going on for them, what's the vibe like for them. Have you had any run-ins with law enforcement or city officials? Because I know the last couple years, there's some clubs in Texas that have had some issues that are under RCI. So there's a concern there. Like I said, I don't want to fearmonger, but I'm concerned just because it's not as progressive everywhere. For a long time, we've been going at this fight alone, and we're going up against giants. But I think, for dancers too, this is a time to want transparency. It's the biggest concern that I saw online were house fees being raised after this. And I know things are making a little bit more sense now, because I remember last August, they implemented this mysterious $8 promo fee. It's separate from our house fee, and they just call it a promo fee. It's $8. And then after all this came out, I'm not making any accusations, but I am raising an eyebrow. That fee seems a little bit more interesting now that all of this is coming out. So that's a valid concern, and we're, allowed to ask for further transparency. Where is our money going? If our house fees, are going to be raised, if there's plans for that. And I will definitely do my best to help coordinate or keep track of any raising of house fees in RCA clubs. But, like I said, yeah. And like you said, it's definitely a privilege to be out and about your identity as a sex worker. So I do not expect anybody to do that by any means.
Yeah.
But our greatest power is being informed, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to take it from me. You don't have to take it from what the managers say. But for what public information is available, our best asset right now is just to be informed. My organization is Don't Strip Our Rights. And then our handle is don't_strip_our_, and then right. We're building a website right now. We are organized and structured as a C4. So we can certainly, help with any dancers' efforts, and I will do my best to outreach and talk to anybody, especially in other states, like I said, that aren't as worker friendly. I'm definitely quickly concerned and want to hear from those workers.
I think the narrative that they're trying to say in both of these lawsuits is that they don't have a lot of records about what's happening, whether it's be people's schedules and what they've worked, the amount of money they've made, the amount of rooms or dances they've sold. They're trying to make it all seem like there is no records, but this just simply isn't true. With this most recent lawsuit here in Colorado in February, it was said that there's said to be ordered 14 million or something like that out to 200 workers that were affected. But in reality, it's not just 200 workers. It's way, way more than 200 workers. And there's just simply no way for them to know that because they don't keep records. If they kept records, I would have been on the records. I would have received a part of that. But of course, there's just no record of these things. While I would like to be optimistic that this would encourage changes, I just don't think that that's the case. I believe that whenever something shady happens, any sort of lawsuit, I think that they often just change the name of the establishment. In Colorado, in particular, one location, the name has changed like at least 3 or 4 times. Um, and that's what happens. They get a lawsuit and then the name changes. It would be really interesting to look into because you can easily Google like the name changes of what these places have been called over the years. And I really do think that they just get a lawsuit and change the name. Sometimes I almost wonder if they do these things intentionally. In Colorado, in particular, there's 2 clubs, both under RCI. One is titled PT's Show Club, the other is titled PT's Centerfold. So they're both PTs, but just different PTs. And I think a lot of this is probably about classification.
So should we like kind of close up our thoughts on this? I think I made some notes. There's one thing that says when courts rule in favor of dancers, it forces the industry to change. And my question is, does it though? Because nothing seems to change.
But the idea is that it's supposed to. Like, the idea is that it's supposed to. The idea is that the punishment, being fined, having the money being taken away is the punishment. And one would want to do that again because you would have the money being taken away from you again. But instead, and maybe it's because it's so much profit involved. I'm not sure, but they continue to do it and then just pay out and continue to have the same business practices and then pay out another lawsuit.
Yeah. Right. So I have a couple of questions. My question first is to the workers. How long are we going to keep playing that game and nothing changes? And then to the business owners that are paying out, how long can you keep doing that? How sustainable is that for your business and your profit margin? Are you really making that much money that you can afford to pay out $14 million every few years? Is that why you're avoiding paying your allegedly avoiding paying your $8 million taxes because you had a lawsuit? And also, here's my last question. I'm not a huge fan of the law all the time, but why can't we just follow it so that we can all make money together and do things right?
I'm with that. I like the sound of it.
I mean, constructs and all that jazz, that's a whole other rabbit hole. But I guess, and then lastly is something I've been saying for a while and that I don't think will ever happen. It's can't we just have like a third classification of worker? Can't there be a third one? Or can you treat independent contractors like true independent contractors? Like, what's up with that? What's up?
What does that system truly look like? Right. Maybe that's what one should try.
Right. Like, have you all tried it? Have you tried letting dancers come in whenever they want, like they're supposed to? Have you tried it? And how
not charge them to come in?
Not charge them. Why don't you give them perks for coming in when you're like, oh, there's only 3 dancers tonight. We need more people. Give me perks. Make me want to come in. That's for everyone else out there to decide. How are we going to keep doing this? Because like, I've been watching, I know you have Nats, like the deterioration of our industry. And you go into strip clubs now and they are not fun anymore. Like when I used to work at the Spearmint Rhino in downtown, they'd have tipping wars between like a prince from Dubai and like then some other like rich tech guy. And they're just like having tipping wars and the room is packed and people are winning Lakers tickets and like the hottest babes ever like doing cocaine at the top of the pole. Like that's what it was like. Okay, maybe we did cocaine in the dressing room, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I know exactly. The energy has changed. I think that for so long it's been marketed towards male dominance and like, you know, successful men. So right now it's not necessarily set up for it to be like a party atmosphere, not even a party atmosphere for men, but just a place for men to go to in order to have access to beautiful women or men.
Yeah, well, times are changing and they certainly aren't. It's like they're so the strip clubs in general are pretty out of tune with what's happening around the world. And so I really hope that strip club owners and managers like are listening to this or something like it, listening to someone, you know, because we really don't want them to fail. We really don't.
No.
At least I don't. I want workers to have jobs.
I want the industry to flourish.
It's same.
I want the industry to flourish. I think that we have room to grow. We've always only like had like I come from a club that was extremely small. My home club, it was very small. It did have like, I don't want to say a family feel, but I spent a lot of time there and it did feel like that. And I just think that when a business can really kind of like, you know, be there for each other, it makes real solid employees, really good performers. Like your outlook on life changes.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
Yeah, it is nice to have a place like that, and not everybody gets a chance to. So, yeah, I just wish better for the industry, better for the workers. Yeah. We'd really love to hear from our audience what you think. Nothing that is expressed here these are just our opinions, mine and Nat's opinions. Some things are obviously factual that we looked up. We could provide links to information in the description, but we'd love to hear about how you're feeling about these corporations and their behavior in our industry and how it's hurting workers and how it's overall hurting the industry as a whole. As a whole, how these actions are hurting the industry. And yeah, tell us how you're feeling and what you think, and if you'd like to hear more episodes like this. As always, thank you for listening. This is our last episode for the year. See you next year.
We love doing this work, maintaining a platform for sex workers to tell their stories, entertaining and educating the public. If you love our podcast, please consider donating. We are now a 501c3, so your donations would be considered tax deductible. Go to yaswork.org/donate and easily send us some support to help keep this podcast going. That's yaswork.org/donate. YAS Podcast is produced by YASWork, which is a nonprofit dedicated to educating and entertaining audiences about sex work through media. Learn more about how you can get involved in the podcast and our organization by visiting yaswork.org. That's YASWORK.org.